The Handmaid by G.M. Blackjack. Read by My Name is R. Chapter 3. The Handmaids. Aradia flew over to her alternate selves, smiling at them welcomingly. They smiled back at her, but didn't say anything. They were in the middle of a discussion. As we can plainly see, we've got ourselves a wasteland here. Total annihilation. Cool, another Aradia said. Well, yes, but the point is not to stand in awe here, though you can feel free to. The point is that a linchpin of sorts has been broken. Timelines have diverged from utter desolation to pointless chaos to war to probably more boring things. A mixture, really. This isn't new news, yet another Aradia said. We get it. The six of them are the heroes of this world. Yada yada. Again with the yada yada, the previous said. Don't you get that we are functionally the same person? You didn't have a zebra drop a bucket of anti-changeling goo on you 5 minutes ago. Fair. Another Aradia, possibly the first one who had spoken, Aradia had lost track of her other selves, spoke up. Look, we can compare notes on how different or not time has made us, but I think that'd be a waste of time. We are made of time, another Aradia said, causing all 6 of them to chuckle. How can we waste it? We could still stand to actually get to the point, finding out why this happened. What broke the linchpin of those 6 friends? We know there was someone messing with time who wasn't us. Wasn't the doctor either, a new Aradia said, appearing from nowhere, making past Aradia, that is, the Aradia this story is about, relieved to no longer be the latest one to arrive. Though this new Aradia seemed pretty singed. What happened to you? One of the Aradias asked. Centaur beam of death, she muttered, dusting herself off. Before we fix this, I want to go back and make sure he knows not to mess with the Handmaid. There was that title, the Handmaid, again. Why had she, or her future self anyway, taken the title of her ancestor? She didn't know. She didn't say anything about that, though. Her future selves had other things to deal with. She did say something else, however. Oh, I was just in that timeline. Got out of there before I could get singed. Singed Aradia chuckled. Ah, the wisdom of your alternate versions. I know, right? An alternate Aradia said. Has anyone gone back to the linchpin yet? Yet another Aradia asked. I have. Can't tell you what I saw yet, though. Oh, okay. Which of us goes back to become you, then? Her, Aradia said, pointing at an Aradia that had just appeared. Go to the rain boom. The what? The new Aradia asked as she dusted herself off from industrial soot. The rainbowy thing. Oh, okay. She vanished. The Aradia that the recently vanished Aradia would eventually become shuddered. Phew. It took me a painful amount of time to find it. What did you see? Past Aradia asked, feeling like she should be part of the conversation instead of just watching her future selves. She didn't think they realized she was from their past yet. A bit confusing, since usually she was good at remembering these things, but still fun. Starlight, a unicorn that we frankly have ignored a lot. She's got it out for Twilight and wants to make her suffer. How'd she do this? Singed Aradia asked. Starswirl's spell. Every Aradia facepalmed, except past Aradia, because she had no idea who Starswirl was. You know something we don't? An Aradia asked her. I couldn't tell you if I did, past Aradia snarked. Several of the Aradias giggled. Self-trolling was always fun. They didn't see why their old friends had hated it so much. Enough of that, another Aradia said, appearing right then and there. Turns out Starlight's redeemed. Which timeline are you from? Singed Aradia asked. Core. Twilight turned her around and set the timeline back to normal. By their perceptions, anyway. We've still got a mess to clean up here. Time is still fractured 8-fold. Think it could be her? An Aradia asked. Seeing as we haven't seen her since the use of Juju, I doubt it. It wouldn't happen here. You know, saying that makes it more likely. The wasteland winds blew through Cora Radia's hair. She just smiled. Yes, I know. Maybe I'm just hopeful. We're all hopeful, and Aradia, that past Aradia was pretty sure hadn't spoken yet, said. We're maids of time, not hope, Singed Aradia mentioned. Who cares? Anyway, Cora Radia, what did you do? Nothing, Cora Radia responded. I really just took notes and waited to see what happened. They think the issue is taken care of. No need to worry them with unstable timelines. Obviously, we want the core timeline to win out, but the other 7 need to retain some manner of existence to ensure their loop continues as it should. A 9th Aradia appeared. We'll need to make sure the points we, Starlight, and Twilight exist are kept stable. Where are dream bubbles when you need them? Cora Radia muttered. Singed Aradia rolled her eyes. Well, that could work, and... Wait. Hold on. 1, 2, 3... She counted all the Aradias. 9. There are only 8 timelines. Who's using loop clones? Past Aradia frowned. Everyone was shaking their heads. Did they really not remember being her in their past, even now? That was disconcerting. She raised her hand anyway. I'm from your collective pasts. Cora Radia blinked. Not possible. I have no memories of entering this mess before. Where on the timeline are you? Just arrived at Equus, saw the Tree of Harmony and the symbol on it, and was just in Ponyville. She shrugged. Sorry for not coming clean about that earlier. I was just curious about what you were doing. Why do you all look like you've seen our ghost? The Tree of Harmony has no symbol on it, Cora Radia said. No Ares gear? No. Okay, what is going on? Cora Radia grinned. I have no idea. Past Aradia gave her the finger guns gesture. Ah, you. And Aradia furrowed her brow. Hey, what prompted you to come here? The doctor told me to. There was a facepalm times 8 combo. Cora Radia groaned. That... he knows better than to do that. Why? That would have created a timeline offshoot, though, another Aradia said. I don't feel one. Yes, none of us do, Cora Radia pondered. Someone must have done something to the core timeline of us that didn't affect the world's timeline that much. Somehow. Initiated a paradox of some kind or another. But how would we be able to encounter the changed version of ourselves at all if that were the case? Pastor Radia grinned. Ooh, I know this one. You exist right now in a state of temporal uncertainty in these bifurcated timelines. You can exist in both areas at once because these timelines can't handle splitting for us, seeing as their final stable arrangement is uncertain. Past us is smart, Aradia offered. Though, this means we can't leave the timelines. Or maybe we might not be able to leave them. Can't really know for sure, Singed Aradia said. We can't know how to fix this right if the rest of time has changed for us. You must figure out something eventually. I was in the local future, Past Aradia encouraged. Thanks for the hope, but we already know that through other means. You know, we did appear at the Tree of Harmony when we arrived as well, only there was no symbol. The most recent Aradia scratched her chin. Hey, what else did you see that might have been different? How'd the doctor act? He only seemed to know of me, you, from legend. That's wrong, Cora Radia said. You're supposed to teach him the ways of time, starting when he was very young. He would have treated you like a mother. Or should have. You should go back, another Aradia said, summoning a red gear construct. Go to the moment you were supposed to meet him, as a foal, and see what changed. Find out what happened to the timeline, then report back to this time and the rest of us. Good plan, Singed Aradia said. Past Aradia took the gear and nodded. Where should I be to activate this? Go north. Find the snowdrift 36 miles that way. Aradia looked around the wasteland and narrowed her eyes. Which timeline? Core, Aradia said. I'll take you. They shifted timelines, returning to the castle and the land of blue sky. They flew out to the north. Time accelerated such that the journey would only take them a few seconds. Here, Aradia said, stopping them and pointing at a snowdrift. That's the spot. Pastor Aradia grinned. Thanks. See you soon. Of course. Aradia landed and activated the gear, shooting slightly over 1,000 years into the past. She took in the cold scenery and smiled. It didn't look all that different, even this far in the past. She saw a town in the distance that wasn't there in the future, or at least not in the core timeline she'd just been in. She saw a small, brown, cutie-markless colt staring at her from the edge of town, staring right at her. She waved at him. Then a sword rammed through her back, poking right through the gear symbol on her chest. Her burgundy blood sprayed out in an impressive arc, splattering over the white landscape. She fell to a knee, eyes wide, smile gone. Well, she hadn't expected this. She fell the rest of the way to the ground, the sight of a fleeing, traumatized colt leaving her vision. The last thing she saw was a tall, dark unicorn glaring at her with a look of utter contempt. The Handmaid's enemy was Sombra, or at least Sombra said so. The war with the Crystal Empire is one of the few events that can be traced back directly to the Handmaid's influence, without question. He became obsessed with her, as a true rival, the enemy he was really fighting all these years rather than the armies of Equestria. But when he began to lose the war, he went even further into self-indulgent madness. He wanted to kill the blight on his history in a murderous rage. He knew he wasn't going to win, so he wanted nothing more than her dead for her meddling. Chapter 4: Self-Fulfillment. Far, far away, further than could possibly be understood, something stirred back from where Aradia had come. There was a large, dim room in this distant location, inside of which stood 10 clocks, proud and tall. Each one was motionless, pendulums stationary at a direct, upright position. Each of the timepieces was adorned with a single symbol in their upper window. 6 of the symbols were unique, 4 were not. 2 of these 4 were imprinted with suns, while the other 2 held 10-toothed gears. One of the clocks with the gears began to tick without warning, the pendulum swinging to the left, then the right, then the left again. It seemed to stop at times, at either end, but would keep going just when it seemed like it would never move again. Left, right, left, right, center. The clock stopped, the pendulum squarely in the middle. It glowed with an awe-inspiring light that sped through the heavens. Aradia's eyes flew open, new life filling her body. Powers beyond even her control restored her to life, demanding that she wasn't done yet. She stood up and removed the sword from her chest, examining it closely. It obviously wasn't meant to be wielded by one of her size, or even by hands, but she just used her telekinesis to compensate for that. Her own blood dripped off the blade to the ground, pooling on the white snow in a fascinating pattern. She grinned. That was fun! The black unicorn, evidently royalty if his robes and armor were anything to go by, growled. No! No! You were supposed to die here and never cause me trouble again! Aradia shrugged. Can't really give me a heroic death if I haven't done the thing you hate yet, can you? She thrust the sword at him, stopping it millimeters from his face. Though you do have my attention now, whoever you are. He notably did not find the fact she didn't know him odd. He seemed to be expecting it. "I am King Sombra, the one who will be your arch-enemy!" "Really? Do we duel across time? Oh, that'll be so cool when it happens." Sombra growled, summoning a crystal pillar under Aradia with the intent to impale her. She just aged the crystal to dust with ease, continuing her smile. "I'm beginning to suspect we aren't really rivals and I just ticked you off somehow. That was a pretty generic move there." Sombra tossed thousands of crystals at her, but she just jumped 3 seconds into the future to avoid them. She yawned. "Not really looking forward to these confrontations anymore." He twitched. I went to such lengths to kill you here." "Oh, I did die just there. You succeeded. I came back after because it was a pretty meaningless death, from my perspective anyway. Don't know about yours yet." She saw Sombra slowly realize that his plan to kill her before she could cause him whatever trouble she was going to was doomed to failure because the criteria to kill her permanently couldn't be without her already having done those things. Aradia put on a pitying smile. There. I'm sure it's not that bad. You'll probably get to a future me sooner or later." She was pretty sure he wouldn't. She was particularly careful, for the most part, not to get herself in situations where she might suffer a heroic death. Or just, she supposed, though the chances of her going out with a just death were always pretty low. Sombra roared in rage, throwing more attacks at her. She shrugged, allowing herself to take a crystal to the forehead, dying again. "Ha! Ha!" She got up again in less than a minute. She had some difficulty removing the crystal from her forehead, and she had a headache now, but she felt mostly fine. "See? Not happening. Sorry, Sombra." "Oh, well, not really, since I like being alive, and you seem pretty evil." Sombra was in a complete rage at this point. Aradia considered just leaving this time and doing research elsewhere, but a beam of white light from above caught her attention before she could follow through with the idea. It hit Sombra square in the face, sending him flying. A brilliant white winged unicorn descended from the sky, her soft, multicolored mane waving in the cold air. A smaller, darker winged unicorn landed at her side. The smaller one saw Aradia first. "Sister, the Handmaid." The white one turned to Aradia, her eyes widening. Aradia waved her hand. "Hi!" "Do you know me?" "Nope," Aradia grinned, "but you obviously know me." "Yes, I am Celestia. You told me to give you a message when you met me." "Oh?" Aradia asked, loving what she was hearing. "Return to the Tree of Harmony, Handmaid. Return to the moment of its inception, and take the place you are meant to take. Witness our history." Aradia nodded. "Okay. And when Sombra begins his reign of terror, use the reputation you've built up to get me to listen to you, and declare war. It isn't something you'd do otherwise." Celestia shook her head. "I don't believe so. I was too deeply rooted in my pacifism. I almost ignored your counsel on the matter. I fear what would have happened if I had not done something." Aradia nodded. She was, however, grinning like a child on her birthday. She was about to see the origin of the tree and gain some insight into her purpose, her role as the Handmaid. She was about to become the figure of legend, and this was how. This was a bit arbitrary, but considering that this was an altered timeline, the original reasons for these actions might have been muddled. She did have a question, though. "Any idea why I call myself the Handmaid?" "That was a name we gave you," Celestia said. "You never told us yours." Aradia Megiddo." Celestia let out a mildly exasperated sigh. "And that's probably why you never told us right there." The Dark Sister nudged Celestia. "Sombra is getting away." A dark cloud of magical energy had risen into the sky and was taking off to the north. "We'll get him, Luna. He knows he's doomed," Celestia said. "Handmaid, Aradia, will you do as asked?" "I kinda think I would have done something like it anyway, but okay, bye." She flew south, away from Sombra and the sisters, and towards the Tree of Harmony. She felt time powers activate from a version of herself, stopping time. Aradia didn't care at the moment. She'd figure out why she was here stopping time eventually. She didn't even bother to look. She just continued her journey. She began to rewind time as she did so, gliding over towns that vanished beneath her, roads that were replaced with trees, and rivers that shifted back and forth. Canyons were filled, mountains collapsed, continents moved slightly. Reverse time flow on a geological scale was something to behold. She arrived at the tree relatively quickly, checking it for the symbol. It didn't have it. She considered making it just to complete the circle here, but remembered she was going back through time right now, and would see it if she were going to do it. The brain-burning nature of the dilemma brought forth a chuckle. She accelerated her backward flow of time to eons. The tree was a constant with its 6 crystals centuries back, but eventually it shrunk, becoming a seedling, then a seed, then nothing but the ever-free forest. But Aradia could still sense the energies here, the energies of harmony. A 6-fold power that had been with this world since near the beginning, apparently, because the forest was shrinking, the atmosphere was thinning, the world was becoming a lifeless rock. And then she felt when the harmony was gone. It was a jarring feeling, forcing her to stop. She was now on a dead rock. Aradia re-entered time in a forward manner. Something had happened too quickly for her to see, something that had added the energy of harmony, but hadn't happened yet, obviously. She was on a lifeless rock with no sun, only the distant glow of stars was available to warm it. No tree, no life, no evidence of anything. The planet was a dead world, well and truly. It had 2 moons, both roughly the same size, though one was slightly larger than the other, albeit further away, so they looked the same. Then Aradia saw something else. One of the stars in the sky was shaking, growing in size, coming closer. Aradia paled. It had to be going somewhere really close to light speed for it to be moving at that apparent velocity, while the star would have to wait decades, if not centuries, for its journey to be over. If the light was reaching Aradia now, that meant it was almost here. A star was coming right for the planet, and it would arrive within moments. A tremendous blue star dominated the sky in an instant, stopping just short of engulfing the poor planet and its moons into the heavenly fire. Aradia knew in an instant that the star was alive, and that it knew she was here. Aradia felt enthralled, but also terrified at the immense being before her. She was momentarily shocked into forgetting that she had almost complete dominion over time, overcome by the beauty and power. And then the star died, the second star death Aradia had seen in 24 hours. This one was very different. A black sphere cut right through the blue star, upsetting the solar forces of the cosmic being. The dark assassin flew off into the inky blackness without so much as changing speed or giving a thought to its actions. The star roared, shaking the cosmos with gravity waves as it died. Blue waves shot out of its dying form, purposefully directed away from the planet so not to harm it. Aradia's jaw dropped as the star shrunk from an impossibly huge scale to that of a tiny point, fire jetting off into the darkness. Eventually, only a tiny part of the star's core remained, and it fell to the planet, crashing into the ground mere yards from Aradia, planting itself deep in the earth. It somehow didn't make that large of a crater, merely a hole, And then it grew. Crystal shapes sprouted up from the crystal seed, driving themselves out of the hole. 6 colored gems flowed out of the hole, demanding to be seen, to be cared for by the rest of the crystals. These 6 essences dissipated into 6 harmonious energies, swirling around the point of impact. The light of life sparkled, defying the will of the stars for it to die. It would live. It would fill this entire world with life through its continued existence. Magic surged through and around the planet. The world's 2 moons reacted, the larger one summoning the blue fire the star had ejected to itself, igniting and transforming into a brilliant sun. The other moon shone with the thoughts and dreams of what lay beyond. Some lichen began to grow around the harmony energies, magic itself, despite the current lack of atmosphere or water. All it needed was magic and the light of the new sun. Aradia put her hand on the newborn magic of the world, smiling. You are the first guardian of this world. The equivalent, at least. Aradia felt affirmation from the forces that would become the tree. Is this what you called me here for? To witness? Aradia felt like this was only part of the reason, and that she should already know the other part. I am here to protect this world, and to fix time wherever needed, for you are cursed with a weak timeline, one that could break if completely strained. That's what the future me's were doing. Their job, their purpose, why they were called. The Harmony Force gave feelings of gratitude. Thanking me before I began? Well, I accept. She chuckled, putting her hands on her hips. It was time to see this world take shape, and help it through its past. She barely knew what the future held, but something told her it was exactly what would come about because of her actions. She watched as the sky turned blue over time, and how magical life flourished. The Everfree Forest sprung up around her, serving as the nexus for freedom and magic, and as the origin of life. She saw how the races came into existence: dragons, centaurs, demons, griffins, dogs, and of course, ponies. They were simple-minded at first. The demonic beings were powerful and cruel, keeping the others from their full potential with ease. But they were eventually driven away, the worst sealed in a prison deep within the world's mantle, a prison called Tartarus. Aradia watched all this time, jumping forwards and backwards through the temporal knots regularly, watching events closely, nudging them when she thought it was needed, or knew it was needed. She inserted herself into the past, taking the role that was needed. Demonic kings attempted to use time as a weapon, but so did the good-natured unicorn wizards, and she was cleanup every time, just to keep the structure of time from falling apart at the seams. She guided the world towards harmony as she had seen in the future. She became especially attached to early Equestria and the halls of Canterlot, becoming a mysterious, ancient presence that was sighted every few years, almost like a ghost. She watched Celestia and Luna particularly closely, their lives bringing joy to her own. She became instrumental in giving the Harmony Forces the physical form of the tree. The legends of her soon surpassed her exploits. She was not the force behind every major event in history, remarkably few, in fact, but the stories claimed she was, even if they couldn't prove it. She rarely interfered in large scale, beyond simple timeline cleanup, ensuring all loops remained stable, and that unstable ones were made to be stable. On the small scale, she interfered regularly, sometimes as a benefactor, other times as a simple troll who wanted a good laugh, and yet, even these actions guided the world to harmony. It was one moment where she had played a prank that brought peace between 2 feuding families, when she knew why she allowed herself to take the title of her ancestor. Demara had guided Alternia as the Handmaid, and so was Aradia guiding Equus. She was a force not originally intended to be present, but fundamentally needed nonetheless. The world may have been destined for harmony anyway, but Aradia not only ensured it, she kept it stable. And now she was going to walk up to Celestia and have an actual conversation with the monarch. This would be the second one through on Aradia's perspective, but the first by Celestia's. Aradia was excited, though she was almost perpetually excited nowadays. While she has her own reasons for accepting the title of Handmaid that are beyond us, we can trace back to why we came up with the name. The hand part is easy to discern. She is one of the few beings in our legends that have full hands, a feature rare in this world's biology. It has become one of her distinguishing features in myth and legend, followed closely by her distinctive horns. The maid half does not come from the many sightings of her doing menial chores within Canterlot Castle. It refers to her role in our world. She once revealed that our world's time is very prone to splitting with very little strain. She is there to clean up the mess of time when it breaks, when we break it. She is our maid. It was why she was called. The Tree of Harmony knew it needed someone to do what it could not. Keep time in order. She was the one that answered the call. But even she wasn't perfect. There was one moment in time that affected her own flow of time. A moment that involved her counterpart, the Doctor. Okie dokie, that's the end of chapters 3 and 4. I decided to put these two together because I felt like ending it on 3, especially to anyone not at all familiar with Homestuck. As I was the first time through, I think. I don't actually remember the exact order when I learned things. But anyway, I felt like it would be nice not to leave you on that for a half a week while I got ready to release the other next piece. Yeah, I felt like putting these together worked. Anyway, I've been thinking about it. She had like thousands of... Actually, I have no idea how long it was on her time scale because she keeps jumping around so much. But she lived like an entire life in one timeline, and then now she's got another timeline. I'm not sure the other one ends up existing at the end. Maybe it does. I don't remember how this all shakes out. There's a lot of time loop stuff. This is exactly what I didn't do when I played with time travel. Not to say it's bad, just that it gets complicated and I didn't want to deal with it all. GM? He dove headfirst into it. Good on him. It seems coherent, if rather confusing. Time travel. It can be complicated. Anyway. Alright, I happen to know what's going on with the clock scene, and I don't think it's a spoiler, so I'm going to go ahead and explain it to you for those of you who are unfamiliar with Homestuck. So, some people, I don't know which, from Homestuck, have this thing where they can only die if they die in a heroic manner, where they were a hero who was slain trying to do the right thing, or in a just manner, where they were being a villain who was killed by people trying to stop them from doing evil things. And those clocks start ticking when someone dies, and then they decide whether it was a just death, whether it was a heroic death, or whether it was just kind of an oopsie-daisy death. Like getting stabbed by some guy you've never heard of for doing something that you haven't done yet. I mean, you died. It's not a measure of how dead you are. It's a measure of the meaning of the death. And on Aradia's position, that death meant nothing. And that's how it works. It's not the only time GM uses these things, but whatever. Anyway, next thing, because I know there was something else I wanted to talk about, was... Oh yeah! The star! Yeah. This was, I'm pretty sure this was written before Star Swirl came back and the origin of the tree in canon was shown. And this is a thing GM plays with a few times. It doesn't always involve a Radia. In fact, I think this might be the only time it does. But there's a few of his stories where the Tree of Harmony is born due to a star coming down to Equestria. It's one of those little details I like tracking through his various works and trying to piece together the full picture. Anyway, I just thought that was neat. I don't think there was anything else I wanted to talk about. So, I hope you enjoyed. I think we'll finish this off next time. Yeah, there's only one more chapter, chapter 5. I hope you enjoyed. I hope to see you again next time. Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a pleasant day. Goodbye. Oh, I just remembered. I remembered what the other thing was. You may have noticed I sound a bit different in the second half of the video. That's because between recording chapter 3 and chapter 4, for me, was like 2 weeks, because I got sick. Not a cold or anything, I was just feeling under the weather, because the weather shifted. And remember, we weather the weather, whatever the weather, whether we like it or not. That's from Little Bear. Anyway, that's one of the good things about my, doing these in advance now and putting them out on a schedule instead of the way I used to do it of just making them whenever I made them, is if I get sick for a few weeks, it doesn't really affect things on your end directly. Yay! Still might delay things, but it won't delay things unexpectedly. It can be accounted for. I'm doing physical actions like I'm scheming and making my sinister plans while discussing the production schedule of My Little Pony fanfictions. It's neither evil, nor is it terribly, schemy in any way. That's just a thing I do sometimes. Anyway, for real this time. Thanks for listening. I wish you all the best. All that good stuff. Peace, cheer be with you. Good tidings all, and to all, I'm turning this off before I make more of a fool of myself.